Let's keep it real. The tight end position sucks in fantasy football, especially when you're trying to pluck one off waivers, because most of these jabronis are not going to get it done. You get a dark horse every now and again, like a Trey McBride, but more than likely it's not going to happen. And speaking of likely, Isaiah Likely is on the come up this week due to the injury of Mark Andrews. The injury of Mark Andrews is a big headache to fantasy gamers because a lot of people drafted him high and they wanted him for the rest of the season because he was a top end producer. But today we're going to look at whether or not you need Isaiah Likely for your fantasy team. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. We're going deep on the waiver wire every single day on these prospects to help you pick your players, to help you know who to get. We're also helping you set your lineups. We're helping you win your trades right before that trade deadline and everything else. Also, Ric Flair's watching you. Do not disappoint him. He's keeping an eye on you. Click that button. Stop missing out here. Let's talk about some Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews, pretty much done for the season. Ankle injury, he's done. We're looking at Isaiah Likely now. He's going to be stepping in at the tight end position, and we know they like to target the tight end a lot. Last year, during training camp and preseason, Likely was getting a lot of buzz. He was scoring a lot of points in preseason, looking good, but Mark Andrews kept him at bay. Mark Andrews has been keeping him at bay this whole season, but the injury changes things up unfortunately. Isaiah Likely has not really done anything all year because it's the Mark Andrews show. But with Andrews out, he saw a 74% snap share and 2 targets in this game. Now we're looking at him whether or not to pick him up in fantasy, and a lot of people have questions because they lost Mark Andrews and we're getting close to the playoffs. We need to know what to do. We need to know whether or not he's going to step in and see the same workload, and I'm going to tell you probably not. Probably not, but let's see why here. PPR by the week on his career, on his fantasy scoring, he has been productive a few times last season as a rookie when he got the opportunities. 19 fantasy points, 18 fantasy points. You could score 9 fantasy points in a week and be a tight end 1. That's the thing about it. That's how gross the tight end position is. On any given week, you can be a tight end 1, a top 12 tight end in scoring, even top 10, top 8, and score just 8 or 9 fantasy points because it's like that. There are a few weeks out of the season where you have to be in double digits to be in that range, but a lot of times the scoring's not that great. Looking at Likely, he's from Coastal Carolina and really turned it on during his final season with 59 balls caught, 912 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Also, 2.99 yards per route run in his final season, 6.9 yards after the catch per reception. A decent ADOT though. He gets targets deep downfield. 9.4 that final year in 2021, then 13.7 in 2020, 12 in 2019, and 10. So he's not a tight end. That just sucks up the short targets. They was letting him run deep a little bit downfield. His ownership of the passing production was top tier compared to other tight ends, owning a large portion of the workload for Coastal Carolina. That's a good indicator there that he can transition to the NFL game. Also, if you're not hitting these numbers, the odds decrease immensely that you hit at the NFL level. So that's a good thing to note for Isaiah Likely. But the thing about him, 4.88 40-yard dash, not the fastest guy. Got a little bit of burst to his game. Fell to the 4th round. The Ravens picked him up. They like to gobble up them tight ends. They usually gobble up 2 at a time when they do so. But Likely has the size. He's proven that he can compete at the NFL level to some capacity, which is something we like to see. When we look at the opportunities for the Ravens here, it's the Mark Andrews show. 467 snaps on the season, 70% snap share, 22% target share, which is elite for a tight end. Down compared to previous seasons, though. Likely's been getting a little bit of work. Charlie Kohler, a tight end you need to monitor here, also getting a little bit of work. Also dealt with some injuries throughout the season. He was a big-time tight end in college as well, so a guy to pay attention to. But it's the Isaiah Likely show until proven otherwise with Andrews out. So look for him to see a large portion of the snaps, 70, 75%, 80%, game by game going forward. The targets, is what we're looking at here. And Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, they're going to be competing for targets. Odell Beckham's been hot lately. He's been seeing an increased target share. He's also been seeing a good ADOT. Rashad Bateman, after that Liz Frank, his season started slow, but he's starting to improve, starting to show more burst off the step. So they may rely more on the wide receivers in the passing offense, which they should. It's more impactful. It's more efficient. These wide receivers are good. Odell Beckham, a veteran. Zay Flowers, that rookie who's really turning it on early in his career. Rashad Bateman, that injured prospect who shows flashes of greatness every once in a while, but is always hurt, but he's healthy now, doing some good things on the field. So they got some good wide receivers here that they can really inject into the offense. This could be a good time for those guys to show up. But for Isaiah Likely, he's got a good schedule. We got the Chargers, Rams, Jaguars. It gets a little hairy, but you know what? You got to play the matchups. You also got the Dolphins championship week if you make it that far. He's got a decent schedule considering the rest of the tight ends on the slate that you could pick up off waivers. You got a good schedule here. You got an offense that loves to use the tight end position. He's going to be seeing 70 to 80% of the snaps here. Should be seeing some targets per game, probably like 2 to 5, 8 or 9 or so, somewhere around there. We don't know, and it's going to be up and down. I expect them to use the wide receivers a little bit more, so do not expect a Mark Andrews target share. He's not going to get a 22% target share. If he gets 15, it's going to be all right. If he gets 15 to 18, he's going to be okay for you. But do not expect him to get a target share over 20% because I think these wide receivers are going to get a little bit more of the workload, but he does have some upside. The thing about this, when you're taking a shot at a tight end off the waiver wire, it's a different game. And we're just looking at last week's numbers. We've covered this off and on throughout the season. But this is what you're seeing when you look at tight ends. And it's like this damn near every week. A few weeks out of the year, the scoring's a little different. But when you're looking at the tight end 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, in that range, it's not too far off from the tight end 18, 19, 20, even 25 range. Only a few points, 5 to 3 points on average, because we've done the math here. The tight end 8 averages about 5.5 fantasy points per game away from the tight end 25. There are a few games out of the year where it's increased to almost double digits, but it's rare. So the thing about this, when you're gambling on tight ends, you can shoot for the gusto, shoot for the moon, and if it fails, if he busts on you and say he scores 7 fantasy points, he's not going to be too far off from the tight end 9 on the week. So the odds are you might as well swing for the fences, swing for the home run, see what happens here when you're looking up for tight ends, because that's how the game's played at that position. There's a few weeks where you get 10 or more tight ends hit, but usually that's not the case. Usually it looks like this. This year, last year, year before that, the numbers are a joke here at the tight end spot. Do not think too hard about the tight end position because that's usually how it works here. So you need him because you need an upside tight end. You need a gamble at the position. I would not put too much stock into this. I would look at this as a gamble, as a young tight end going to a position where he's going to run some routes, see a good bit of snaps, and maybe that could bleed into some production. He's got some good matchups, and if you're hurting at tight end, you lost Mark Andrews. What else you got to lose there? It's not like Trey McBride's on the waiver wire anymore. It's not like you got good tight ends there. Pick him up, see what happens. If he doesn't hit, you know what? He's not too far off from being a tight end 1 anyways, because that's how the position is played here. But if there's another tight end you like, you can play the same game. I don't like the tight end position, so I talk shit on it a lot because of how the scoring is. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Don't forget, Ric Flair's watching you. Do not disappoint him on the holidays. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.